2 weapons, 2 items, 2 upgrades. Upgrade shrines give out levels to 1 of 3 stats. Randomised dungeon layouts. Fast travel points sprinkled liberally throughout. Shortcuts only accessible to owners of runestones. Hang on. This sounds very familiar. Can't quite put my finger on it. Have I played this before? Oh, of course! That's what this game reminds me of. Secret Ponchos! Secret Ponchos came out as a freebie on PlayStation Plus when it initially launched. It's from the PS3 era, so don't go bother looking for it on the PlayStation 4 or 5 store. I remember the gameplay very fondly. Isometric cover-based combat in a Wild West setting. When it launched, it only had 5 characters, 4 levels and 3 game modes. I always remember that because 543. But the combat itself was excellent. There was, however, one tiny flaw. The matchmaking was bollocks. It took so long to get into a match, and I waited because I liked it. I liked the game, not the waiting. So for me, this scratches an itch that I've had for a long time.
Here I was again. Either Death was getting lazy, or he had other plans for me.
First thing you'll notice is how incredibly dark it is. Everything that isn't directly lit is black. Like, proper black. You know how they drew Batman the Animated Series on black paper? I feel like the developer did the same thing here, only with a black screen. Corridors connect the rooms. Levels are random, but identical in basic structure. Layouts are simple and over time become recognisable, even when you don't know where you're actually going. Regardless of whether the walls are made of stone, brick or corn, it all looks the same after a while. It makes it feel repetitive, perhaps more so than it actually is. One Secret Ponchos trick this uses is reloading faster in cover. Cover is also destructible here and tends to crumble after about, say, 3 salvos from a couple of riflemen. But the cover does last long enough for you to act. Plus, it regenerates a short time after it's been destroyed. In other words, you can use the cover tactically, just not for very long. It means you have to be proactive and thinking about your next move. Emphasis on move. Combat is a series of engagements in the rooms. Enemies are a mix of melee and ranged, nothing you haven't seen before. But these riflemen are dead shots. I mean it. Perfect aim. In these kind of shooty games, you're used to being able to run around like a headless chicken. You do that here, you will die. Very quickly. Max Payne this ain't. tried to inject some creativity into combat. Suicide bombers, dogs, bat swarms, and brutes that throw bear traps, which are bloody annoying. You can stick to cover. I mean that quite literally. The guy sticks to the cover. It's actually kind of difficult to get him to move away from the cover. Kind of reminds me of Cole McGrath in Infamous when he's climbing. The other thing you can do, of course, is dodge with the correct timing. Or you can just shoot them before they shoot you. That's always a winning option. Of course, that assumes you can see the enemy. As I pointed out, this game is black. By my reckoning, about 90% of the game is black, and the other 10% wishes it was black. There is a soft lock auto-targeting system, which is very good, unless your target is in darkness, in which case the auto-target doesn't function. It's surprising how much of a difference it makes. Lighting the lanterns brings, well, light to the room, and blinds the enemy for a moment. Of course, that assumes you can reach the lantern without getting a bullet in the backside. A round in the rump. Despite the gunslinger's appearance leading you to believe he's already dead, you know, with his skull being visible and on fire, you are actually very easy to quote-unquote kill. And if that happens, back to the beginning with you. And the levels reshape themselves.
Some say there's no such thing as a good death. I can see their point. Life and death, both a pain in the ass.
But as I've already said, the levels all look and feel the same anyway, so chances are you won't notice the difference.
It looked like dying.
No, seriously, you won't. Now, the game is relatively stable, but for a hiccup or two. Try again. And again. Save. Save. Save, you bitch!
I felt the hump.
The autosave appears to have crashed. Although weirdly, the rest of it is perfectly fine. I've never had that happen to me before. Part of the game has crashed. Oh, the temptation to continue is strong, but it's still not saving the game. I'm going to have to quit, aren't I? So, I reset the game, and... it's put me back where I was! Well, it's put me back in front of the boss I just beat, so I have to beat him again. But I haven't lost much. Turns out the game auto-saves every few feet. Even if you deliberately quit during a run, it still saves your progress. It's brilliant. Well, unless you die, in which case you're screwed. Wow! What the hell? What was that? Have I leant on the remote control by mistake? You start each run with, well, pretty much nothing, besides some rusty guns. As you play, you'll collect sin from fallen enemies. Survive to the end of the level and you can spend sin on unlocking more gear to find on future runs.
Probably a whole bushel more.
There are upgrade shrines that add a point to either health, gun, or item power. Weapon chests sometimes appear in your path. There are also souls who offer lots of loot in exchange for a curse. Oh gee, thanks, I didn't get you anything. The curse means you take a shitload of damage from everything while it has its hold on you. Kill enough enemies to lift the curse, assuming you survive that long. You get items to help you out, although they don't pack as much of a punch as the guns. Plus the thrown items tend to bounce off enemies as if they're made of stone and you've just thrown a rubber ball at them. Some levels have hazards, such as poison, or auto guns. But in all fairness, level hazards are actually rare and easy enough to evade once you've seen them. Slightly more problematic is the camera angle. Very, very rarely. The perspective of the camera and the layout of the level, well, it confused me. And it's round about this point I realised that that enemy is up on a ledge. It was dark, I couldn't see. It was a good job I had a lantern. It was not my fault. Runes from bosses let you access locked areas you couldn't previously get into, levels you couldn't previously access. I was surprised at how quick and easy they were to find. And speaking of bosses, they're not that hard.
Things like that just ain't supposed to be walking around.
I am not exaggerating when I say that I died way more often to the regular enemies than I did the bosses. And most of the bosses I encountered, I KO'd in a single attempt. It's not exactly Dark Souls, is it? combat itself is not too hard if you keep your head on a swivel, but you can still be caught in an impossible situation due to the random setup of the levels if you have the wrong weapons, the wrong items, and are in the wrong place at the wrong time, surrounded by the wrong enemies. It's one of those situations where you walk into a room and immediately know you're fucked. And once you've beaten the final boss, it's game complete. Yeah, because it's that easy. After that, you have to track down righteous souls. Same as the regular souls. Same game, same levels, except these souls are special. They still sodding curse you though. At least the game points you in the right direction, I suppose. It's definitely easier than Dead Cells. It took me 4.5 hours, roughly, to reach and crack the final boss the first time, which I did so, by the way, on the first attempt. Dead Cells, it took me nearer 8 to 10 hours and several attempts. But I do like the combat. You move, shoot, dodge, take cover, but it's knowing when to do those things. It's being able to read the environment, make sure that your cover's not about to disintegrate, and be able to plan one step ahead for obviously when it does. And when that bad guy over there tries to take a shotgun to your face. Oh, and Ron Pearlman voices the gunslinger. That in no way influenced me to buy this.
The place reeked of rot, ignorance, sweat, and underneath the stench you could feel something more, an unjustified, vicious pride.
It's not that complicated a game. I mean, the controls are relatively straightforward. You can only have so many bits of equipment at a time. It's easy to keep track of what you've got, what everything does. The enemies are fairly rudimentary, melee and range type, nothing you haven't seen before, nothing you haven't shot a bazillion times before in other games, and for me at least, this scratches an itch that I've had since Secret Ponchos, for that isometric Wild West cowboy type combat. The only difference being is that that was a multiplayer game, a competitive game. This is single player.
Resurrection weren't nothing like Sunday school said. More like waking up on the empty side of a bottle of hooch.
Okay, that'll do for this video. What did you think of it? Leave a like or dislike down below. What did you think of West of Dead? Do you like that it's a cowboy shooter? Do you like the isometric combat? Is it Ron Pearlman? Leave a comment down below. And for those of you who can't get enough of my dulcet tones, you can always subscribe or ring the bell for notifications, because apparently that's a separate thing. Or if you want to inflict me on someone else, you can always share instead. See you next time.